for today's deep dive, we're tackling all things Cane Corso heat cycles.
A topic I know many of you are curious about,
Huh?
especially since it can be a bit unpredictable, those first few cycles.
That's right. Today's deep dive is for those of you who want to feel prepared. Be in the know, but without getting totally overwhelmed with information.
Absolutely. We'll stick to the essentials, give you those key takeaways to support your pup through this whole new phase.
And it is a new phase. Did you know that a Cane Corso's first heat can happen anytime between 6 months to 2 years old?
Yeah, it's wild, right? I talk about a range, but don't worry, we'll break it all down for you, from managing those messy moments to keeping your pup happy and healthy.
Let's jump right in then. First up, heat cycle basics. What are we talking about here?
Okay, so picture this. A Cane Corso's heat cycle is like a 3-week adventure, about 21 days, give or take.
And within those 3 weeks, there are two main stages, right?
Yep. We've got proestrus, which is like the pre-show.
So that's when we see those first signs, swelling and a bit of discharge.
Exactly. That can last for about a week and a half. And then comes the main event, estrus.
The actual heat where mating can happen.
Right. And this part can be a bit shorter or longer, depending on the dog, anywhere from a few days to 2 weeks.
Okay, so two main stages, each with its own time frame. And we know large breeds, especially Cane Corsos, those early cycles can be super irregular.
Yeah. It can take a few cycles for their bodies to get into a groove. But we'll talk more about those irregular cycles a little later.
Sounds good. Now, let's be real. Heat cycles aren't just about the physical stuff, right? Our Cane Corsos go through some serious behavioral changes, too.
Oh, absolutely. Get ready for some diva dog days.
Diva dog days, huh?
You might see her needing to pee more often, getting restless, maybe even a little clingy. It's like having a furry little drama queen demanding all the attention.
Sounds like it's time to stock up on those dog diapers. Or maybe some absorbent towels.
For sure. Managing that discharge is key. And there's some other things you can do to make life easier for both of you. The sources suggest sticking to moderate exercise during this time. Think 30 minutes a day. Helps keep her energy levels balanced, avoid those restless bursts.
Yeah, like a nice brisk walk, get some fresh air, burn off some of that extra energy. And while we're at it, we got to make sure she's eating right, too.
Oh, absolutely. Dietary adjustments are super important. You'll want to focus on high-quality protein, right? Give her body what it needs, and lots of water, too. Keep her hydrated and feeling good.
So picture this. You and your Cane Corso enjoying a nice walk. She's getting some exercise. You're making sure she's eating well, and you're bonding during this interesting time. It's all about quality time and care, right?
Exactly. And speaking of care, let's not forget about grooming, especially important during a heat cycle.
Makes sense. Things can get a little messy down there.
Yeah. And that area can be more sensitive too. So regular brushing, gentle baths, that's a must.
Okay, so gentle cleaning to prevent any infections. That makes sense. I'm sure our listeners appreciate those practical tips.
Yeah, and knowing these details means you can feel confident, like you're giving your furry friend the best possible care.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned earlier how those early heat cycles can be irregular, especially for Cane Corsos. Why is that?
Well, think about it. Their reproductive system is still maturing, right? Those hormones are going through a lot of fluctuations.
So it takes time for things to settle into a pattern.
Exactly. It's like a symphony orchestra warming up. Each instrument needs to find its place before everything comes together in perfect harmony.
Love that analogy.
So even if you've been through one heat cycle with your Cane Corso, the next one might not be on the dot, It can take a few cycles for everything to sync up.
Okay, so we need to be patient. Pay attention to those dates. See if we notice any patterns.
And of course, if anything seems off, don't hesitate to reach out to your vet.
Right. Always good advice. Now, you mentioned some interesting behavioral changes that can happen during estrus. Can we unpack those a little more? You said something about nesting instincts.
Oh, yeah. Even if your Cane Corso isn't pregnant, you might notice some of those nesting behaviors.
That's so fascinating. So what's going on there?
Well, there's this surge in the hormone prolactin. It's like the trigger for those maternal instincts.
So it's like she's getting ready for motherhood, even if there's no actual pregnancy.
Exactly. You might see her gathering toys, blankets, maybe even trying to dig nests in your closets or laundry baskets.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Like having a furry little architect redesigning your house.
Yeah.
But should we encourage that or try to redirect her attention?
It's tempting to indulge those instincts, but it's actually better to discourage them, especially if she's not actually pregnant.
Okay, so why is that? Would it be cute to let her have her little nesting moment?
Well, think about it. Encouraging that behavior when she's not actually pregnant can just lead to more frustration for her. It's like setting a table for a dinner party that never happens.
Ah, I see your point.
Right.
Better to channel that energy into something else.
Exactly. Playtime, training, those are great distractions. And speaking of distractions, we can't forget about the emotional roller coaster that comes with heat cycles.
Ooh, yes. The mood swings.
Your usually stoic Cane Corso might turn into a bit of a drama queen.
So how do we navigate that? Is there a secret playbook for handling a hormonal cane corso?
The playbook is actually pretty simple: patience, understanding, a whole lot of empathy.
So, like dealing with any loved one who's going through a challenging time, we need to be supportive, understanding, maybe have a little extra chocolate on hand for ourselves. But seriously, what can we do to make our cane corso feel comfortable during these ups and downs?
Well, first off, recognize that she's going through a lot. Those hormonal fluctuations are no joke, and they can really throw her off balance. So try to keep things consistent. Her routine, her environment. It's all about creating a sense of stability during a time when internally things are all over the place.
So maybe now's not the time to introduce any big changes in her life.
Right. Keep things familiar. And don't be afraid to shower her with extra love and attention. She needs it now more than ever.
It's like a big furry hug. Can be the best medicine sometimes.
Exactly. And remember, even though heat cycles can be challenging, they're also a testament to the incredible power of nature, the unique bond we share with our canine companions.
Beautifully said. Now, before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, there's one more important aspect of cane corso heat cycles that we need to discuss: spaying.
Ah, spaying. It's a big decision for any Cane Corso owner, and there's a lot to consider.
Sounds like a great place to pick up in part 2. See you there.
Welcome back to our deep dive, everyone.
So before we took a little break, we were about to jump into a pretty big topic: spaying.
Yeah, it's one of those decisions with, like, a lot of different angles to think about.
Right. And our sources offer some really helpful perspectives on this.
Absolutely.
For a lot of people, spaying seems like the easy answer.
Yeah, it can definitely seem that way, right? No more messy discharges, no mood swings, no worrying about accidental litters.
Right. All those concerns just poof, gone.
Exactly. The sources highlight that peace of mind. That's huge for a lot of owners.
Especially when we're talking about like a whole litter of Cane Corso puppies.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot of puppies.
And it's not just about convenience either. There's the health aspect too,
Right. Spaying can significantly reduce the risk of certain cancers and infections.
which is a big deal. Every pet parent wants to protect their pup from that.
Absolutely. It's
But-
like a proactive step you can take to safeguard their health.
Makes sense. But we also need to talk about the other side of the coin.
Yeah, the potential downsides.
Because spaying isn't like a universal solution for every dog.
Right. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
So what are some of those concerns that come up in the sources?
Well, like with any surgery, there are always some risks, right? Anesthesia, recovery time.
Yeah, makes sense. It's a procedure, so those things are definitely part of the equation.
And it's essential to talk to your vet about those risks. Make sure your Cane Corso is a good candidate for surgery.
Right, because every dog is different.
Exactly. And beyond those immediate surgical risks, there are also some potential long-term effects to think about.
Okay, like what? What kinds of things?
Spaying can affect a dog's metabolism and hormone levels.
Ah, so it's not just about the surgery itself, but also about those longer-term hormonal changes.
Right. And those changes can sometimes lead to weight gain or like changes in their coat.
That's definitely something to consider.
And that's why the sources emphasize having that open conversation with your vet. They can really help you understand the specific needs of your Cane Corso, consider your lifestyle, and make a decision that aligns with what's important to you.
It's about finding what feels right for both you and your pup.
Exactly.
Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about another big challenge during a Cane Corso's heat cycle.
Okay, what's that?
Well, managing those, shall we say, romantic encounters.
Oh, yeah. Preventing those accidental puppy love connections.
It's all about being responsible, right?
Absolutely. Our sources are super clear on this. Keeping male dogs far, far away is essential during your Cane Corso's heat cycle.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? What are some practical steps?
Leash walks are a must, even if your Cane Corso is usually great off-leash.
So even if she's like the best off-leash walker ever, No exceptions during heat.
Those hormones can make her a little adventurous, and, male dogs have a very powerful sense of smell.
Oh yeah, they can sniff out a female in heat from a mile away, probably.
Ex
So we're playing it safe. No off-leash adventures and no dog parks either, I'm guessing.
Right. Any place where off-leash dogs might be hanging out is a no-go during her heat cycle. And if you have an unneutered male dog at home, well, you'll need to create some separation during this time.
Separate rooms, different yards, the whole 9 yards.
Pretty much.
But let's say, hypothetically, a male dog does manage to slip through the cracks. What are some signs that breeding might have happened?
That's a good question. First, you'll probably notice what's called a tie.
A tie?
Yeah, it's when the male and female dogs are, well, kind of stuck together for a bit.
Oh, okay. Part of the mating process.
Right. It's totally natural, but it can be a bit startling if you're not expecting it.
Definitely not something you want to stumble upon accidentally.
And aside from that, watch for any changes in your Cane Corso's behavior or appetite.
So, like if she's more tired than usual or her eating habits change.
Exactly. Those could be signs of pregnancy. And if you suspect that breeding might have occurred, the best thing to do is contact your vet right away.
Okay, so vet visit is a must if we think there might be puppies on the way.
Right. They can confirm the pregnancy and help you figure out those next steps.
Makes sense. Now, even if we're not planning on breeding, those maternal instincts can still be pretty strong during a heat cycle, right?
Yeah, we were talking about that nesting behavior earlier.
It's like her body and mind are preparing for motherhood, even if it's not actually happening.
Exactly. You might see her, like, gathering toys, blankets, or even trying to mother other pets in the house.
So cute.
Yeah.
But you mentioned before that it's best to discourage those nesting instincts if she's not actually pregnant. Why is that?
Well, encouraging those behaviors when there's no actual pregnancy can lead to some frustration for her.
Oh, I see. Like she's putting all this effort into getting ready for something that's not going to happen.
Right. It's better to redirect her energy towards other things. Playtime, training, things like that.
So support those instincts, but channel them in a way that's, actually beneficial.
Yeah.
Now, we can't talk about heat cycles without addressing the emotional roller coaster that comes with them.
Oh, the mood swings. Yeah, those are definitely a real thing.
It's like our sweet Cane Corso turns into a teenage drama queen overnight.
You might notice she's extra affectionate 1 minute and then restless or irritable the next.
So what's the secret to handling a hormonal Cane Corso?
It's all about patience and empathy.
Okay, so like a deep breath and a reminder that she's not doing this on purpose.
Exactly. Those hormones are powerful and they can really mess with her mood.
So we need to be understanding and supportive.
Right. One of the best things you can do is trying to keep her routine as consistent as possible.
So familiar routines, familiar environments, it's all about creating a sense of stability when things are feeling a bit chaotic for her.
Exactly. And don't forget about physical touch and affection. Extra cuddles can go a long way during this time.
It's like a big hug for the soul.
Right. And even though heat cycles can be challenging, they're also a testament to the amazing bond we share with our dogs. It's true. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, we need to talk about one more thing.
Okay, what's up?
Well, we've talked about keeping male dogs away, but how do we actually handle those close encounters? If a male dog gets a little too close for comfort.
That's a great question. It's all about being proactive and setting those boundaries. We'll dive into some strategies for that in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, on to part 3. Okay, so we're back, ready to finish our deep dive, and we left off talking about those amorous male dogs, the ones who might try to crash the party.
It's like we need to create a protective bubble around our Cane Corsos, especially when they're in heat.
Right, like becoming their personal bodyguard, making sure those Romeos don't get too close to our Juliet.
Exactly, and a big part of that is just being super aware,
Yeah.
especially when you're out and about. Leash walks only.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. No off-leash adventures, even if she's like the best behaved dog ever. Better safe than sorry. Those hormones can make her act a little differently, and we can't always predict how other dogs will react.
Okay, so leash walks are a must. But what about at home? What are some ways to secure the fortress, keep those Romeos out?
Well, if you have a fenced yard, double check that it's secure. No gaps, no escape routes, and be super careful about leaving doors and gates open, even for a second.
It's like we need to think like a canine escape artist. Anticipate all the ways a determined Romeo might try to sneak in.
Right. And remember, even if you trust your Cane Corso, you can't always trust other dogs in the neighborhood.
So vigilance is key. Now, let's say, worst case scenario, a male dog does get close. Are there ways to, like, physically intervene, prevent things from, going too far?
That's a tough one. And honestly, safety comes first. Always. If you find yourself in that situation, the best thing to do is try to distract the dogs, create some separation.
So, like, make a loud noise or throw a toy in the other direction.
Exactly. Anything to break their focus. But remember, never put yourself in danger. If the situation feels unsafe, just remove yourself and your Cane Corso.
Okay, safety first. Always good advice. And I think that's a good takeaway for this whole deep dive, really. It's about being informed, being prepared, and always prioritizing the well-being of our Cane Corsos.
We've covered a lot, haven't we? The stages of a heat cycle, those physical and emotional changes, practical tips for managing it all.
Oh, yeah. We talked about spaying those accidental pregnancies. Phew, it's been a whirlwind.
But hopefully our listeners are feeling more prepared, more confident, like they can handle whatever comes their way.
That's the goal. And remember, every heat cycle is a learning experience. You'll get to know your Cane Corso even better with each one.
It's like we're building this amazing bond, learning to understand their needs, even when they can't tell us exactly what's going on.
I love that. Well, I think that wraps up our deep dive on Cane Corso heat cycles.
If any of you have more questions, remember, your vet is always a great resource. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Until next time, everyone, take care and happy tails.